The Lucky Strike docked with the derelict warship through a makeshift airlock, magnetic clamps securing the smaller salvage vessel against the ancient hull. As emergency lights bathed the extraction team in crimson, Maya studied the neural interface she'd recovered from Darius's workstation. The intricate circuitry pulsed with faint blue energy, technology centuries beyond anything the Conclave permitted civilians to possess. "He's been hiding this," she muttered, slipping the device into her jacket. "Question is, did he bring it aboard, or did he find it here?" Security Chief Kang moved silently beside her, his augmented prosthetic eye scanning the darkened corridors. "Movement in the central chamber," he whispered. "Thermal signature matches Darius. But there's interference." "What kind of interference?" "The kind that shouldn't exist," Kang replied, his artificial eye narrowing. "Quantum fluctuations, similar to what we saw when we discovered those smuggled Conclave artifacts in the Cygnus Run." The corridor widened into a vast spherical chamber, its curved walls lined with what appeared to be thousands of crystalline memory nodes. At its center, suspended in a column of pale light, Darius worked feverishly at a console that responded to his touch with increasing synchronicity. Each movement of his fingers sent ripples of activation throughout the room, nodes illuminating in cascading patterns. "Darius," Maya called, her voice echoing. "Step away from the console." "That's in order." He turned, and Maya fought to maintain her composure. Darius's eyes reflected scrolling data, tiny fragments of code visible in his dilated pupils. "Captain," he said, his voice overlaid with harmonic undertones, "you don't understand what we found." "We?" Kang's hand moved to his sidearm. "The Nemesis isn't just a warship," Darius continued, gesturing to the awakening systems around them. "It's a vault. A repository of everything humanity was meant to forget." A holographic display materialized between them, showing star charts and battle formations Maya didn't recognize. "These are military deployments," she said, "from before the Conclave Accords." "Before our surrender," Darius corrected. "Before they made us forget we were winning." The ship shuddered, systems activating throughout its massive frame. External cameras revealed the asteroid field shifting, debris moving as if drawn by unseen currents. Ileana's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, something's happening. The radiation patterns are changing. It's like the field is reconfiguring itself." Maya stepped closer to Darius, noting the fine network of silver filaments visible beneath his skin. "What have you done to yourself?" "Completed a circuit that's been waiting for centuries," he answered, his expression serene despite the transformation overtaking him. "I've had dreams about this ship my entire life, Maya. Dreams I could never explain." A proximity alarm blared from their salvage vessel. Ileana's voice returned, urgent. Unidentified objects emerging from the asteroid field. They were masquerading as rocks. Some kind of ancient stealth technology. The chamber's central console projected a tactical display, identifying the objects as dormant defense platforms, now fully activated and forming a protective perimeter around the Nemesis. "It's not just waking up," Kang realized, watching the platforms organize into formation. "It's preparing for war." Darius smiled, though the expression wasn't entirely his own. "Not preparing," he corrected as the ship's engines ignited for the first time in centuries, the ambient hum building towards something magnificent and terrible. "Remembering." Commander James Donovan, Tactical Ea Prometheus, the holographic figure repeated, its form stabilizing into the image of a stern-faced man in his 40s, bearing insignia Maya didn't recognize. "And you are?" Maya stepped forward, positioning herself between the hologram and her crew. "Captain Maya Chen of the salvage vessel Lucky Strike. We found your ship drifting in a temporal pocket." The hologram's eyes, too lifelike for typical eye rendering, studied each crew member before lingering on Darius. "Genetic analysis confirms familial connection to Lieutenant Commander Alexander Donovan, explaining the neural resonance that initiated my awakening protocol." The hologram smiled with unexpected warmth. "My brother's descendant." Appropriate. Kang moved closer to Maya, whispering, "Captain, this thing isn't just an AI. The personality mapping is off the charts. It's reading like a complete human neural pattern." "Because that's precisely what I am," Prometheus responded, his hearing evidently far more acute than they'd anticipated. "The last gift of a dying Earth. The complete neural mapping of 12 essential military commanders, preserved to guide humanity after the fall." The bridge transformed around them, holographic displays materializing to show a vastly different galaxy than the one they knew. Maya recognized familiar star systems, but the territorial boundaries, the alliance structures, all were unrecognizable. "The Conclave doesn't exist in these records," Ileana observed, her former intelligence training evident as she absorbed the strategic displays. "Humanity controlled 3 spiral arms. We had alliances with species I've never seen documentation for." "Species the Yith eliminated after our surrender," Prometheus corrected. "Allies deemed too loyal to humanity to be safely reprogrammed." The ship trembled as another proximity alert sounded. The holographic displays shifted to external sensors, showing the advancing Conclave fleet. The massive dreadnought at its center bore distinctive markings Maya had only seen in historical archives, the personal insignia of High Executor Tazrith. "Impossible," Ileana whispered. "Tazrith commands the purification fleet in the sickness sector. It would take months to reach this position. Unless they were already hunting for the Nemesis," Maya realized. Prometheus's expression hardened. "The Yith have always known I exist. That's why they've expended such resources to perpetuate the fiction that humanity surrendered willingly." The hologram expanded, revealing the ship's defensive capabilities. "They fear what I contain, not weapons, but truth." The deck plating beneath them reconfigured, command stations emerging for each crew position. Maya watched in astonishment as the archic interfaces adjusted, simplifying to match the technological understanding of each crew member. "Interesting adaptation," she noted, running her hands over controls that seemed designed specifically for her. "The Nemesis was built to be operated by civilians if necessary," Prometheus explained. "We always knew there might come a time when military personnel would be unavailable or compromised." Darius, his connection to the ship's systems now visibly manifesting as luminescent pathways beneath his skin, took his position at what appeared to be the tactical station. "They're charging weapons," he reported, his voice overlapping with subtle harmonics that mirrored Prometheus' speech patterns. "Conclave protocols indicate they're preparing for complete molecular disassembly of this sector." "Extinction-level response," Ileana confirmed grimly. "They're not here to capture us. They're here to erase any evidence we ever existed." Maya glanced between her crew and the waiting stations. The choice before her was impossible. Surrender to a force that would execute them regardless, or commit to piloting a forbidden warship against the most powerful military entity in known space. "If we run," she asked Prometheus, "what are our chances?" The hologram's expression was unflinchingly honest. "With this crew, untrained, unfamiliar with the systems." He paused. "Better than theirs." The Nemesis tore through the Conclave blockade like a phantom from humanity's forbidden past. Maya watched tactical projections as Conclave vessels scattered in disarray, their formation breaking not from damage but from confusion. The ancient warship moved in ways that defied conventional space-time physics, briefly occupying multiple potential positions simultaneously before resolving into a single trajectory. "They can't target what they can't definitively locate," Prometheus explained as the bridge crew acclimated to the ship's impossible movements. "Quantum uncertainty drive, deemed too dangerous by the Conclave because it couldn't be defended against." Maya gripped the command chair as another series of reality-bending maneuvers carried them past the outer defensive line. "We're running, but to where? The entire Conclave will be hunting us now." "The Luna archives first," Prometheus responded, "then to locate the chronolith. But there's something more immediate you need to understand." The hologram's expression darkened. "Observe." A secondary display activated, showing magnified images of pursuing conclave vessels. Maya initially saw nothing unusual until Ileana gasped beside her. "The hulls," the former intelligence operative whispered. "Look at the hull compositions." Maya squinted at the readouts, then felt her stomach drop. The molecular structure of the conclave vessels contained distinct markers, materials and configurations that perfectly matched components of the Nemesis itself. "They're using our technology," she realized. "Human technology." Prometheus nodded grimly. "After our surrender, the Yith didn't just dismantle Earth's fleet. They repurposed it. Everything the Conclave now uses to maintain their dominance was built on stolen human innovation, rebranded as their own advancement." Kang studied weapon signatures from the pursuing vessels. "These energy profiles, they're identical to theoretical weapons my grandmother designed. She was executed for prohibited research. I watched it happen. Yet her work lives on," Prometheus noted, "in the very weapons used to enforce conclave dominance." The ship shuddered as a glancing hit from Tazreth's flagship briefly destabilized their quantum field. Maya watched damage reports materialize, minimal but concerning. "How did they manage to hit us at all?" she demanded. "Tazreth isn't just the High Executor," Ileana interjected, her face pale. "During my time in Conclave Intelligence, there were rumors. The Yith augment their favored servants with direct neural interfaces to their own consciousness. If that's true, Tazreth isn't thinking like a conventional being. The Executor is partially Yith." A communication alert flashed across the command console, an open-channel broadcast from Tazreth's vessel, aimed not just at the Nemesis, but at all Conclave ships in pursuit. "By authority of the Eternal Conclave, initiate protocol excision. The abomination has awakened. Chronolith's security has been compromised. All units converge on Luna coordinates." "They're moving to destroy the archives before we can reach them," Maya realized. Prometheus's hologram flickered momentarily, an expression of what might have been fear crossing his two human features. "Worse. They know what we're attempting, and they're escalating beyond conventional response." The tactical display updated, showing Conclave vessels breaking off pursuit and jumping toward Earth. "They've authorized stellar erasure." "That's impossible," Ileana whispered. "Even the Conclave wouldn't." "They would," Prometheus interrupted, "and have before. How do you think the Arcturus civilization disappeared overnight? Not war or natural disaster, but deliberate Yith intervention. They're preparing to remove Earth from existence rather than allow the truth to emerge." Maya made her decision instantly. "Maximum velocity to Luna. We need those archives before they're gone." As the Nemesis executed the jump, Darius, his integration with the ship systems now visibly advanced, looked up from the tactical station with eyes reflecting stars no one else could see. "They're afraid," he said softly. "Not just of what we might do, but of what humanity might remember." The deeper they ventured into Luna's forgotten archives, the more unsettling the evidence became. Maya paused at a preservation chamber containing what appeared to be design schematics for the Nemesis itself, noting details that contradicted everything she knew about technological development. "These propulsion designs," she muttered, "they're impossibly advanced for the timeline. Humanity shouldn't have developed this until centuries later, according to official history." "Because official history is a fabrication," Prometheus replied through Darius's comm unit, the AI maintaining ship security while the team explored. "Humanity's innovation curve was exponential, not linear. Within 50 years of discovering faster-than-light travel, Earth engineers had already surpassed Yith capabilities." Kang activated a holographic display showing battlefield engagements across multiple star systems. "The war was nearly won," he observed. Earth forces had pushed Yith fleets back to their core worlds. Then suddenly, complete surrender. Ileana discovered a sealed vault requiring DNA authentication. When standard overrides failed, Maya pressed her palm against the scanner on impulse. To everyone's shock, the system responded. "Chen, Amara. Genetic lineage confirmed." "Amara Chen," Maya whispered. "That was my great-grandmother." She was a hydroponics engineer on Europa, wasn't she? The vault opened to reveal a chamber containing 12 stasis pods, 11 shattered and empty. The 12th remained intact but powered down, its occupant long since removed. Above each pod hung portraits, military commanders in dress uniforms. Maya froze when she reached the 8th portrait. That's my great-grandmother, she said, staring at the image of a stern-faced woman wearing admiral's insignia. Admiral Amara Chen, 6th Fleet Command. Your lineage was deliberately obscured, Prometheus explained through the comm. All military families were reassigned civilian histories after the surrender. A motion from Kang drew their attention to a central console where he discovered an intact data core. As he activated it, the chamber filled with a holographic recreation of their current location, but populated with frantic military personnel. They watched as a temporal echo played out. Officers arguing, tactical displays showing Ith forces in disarray, victory within reach. Then, simultaneously, every officer in the room stopped mid-sentence. Their expressions went blank, and one by one, they began systematically destroying their own work, erasing data, deactivating defense systems. Chronolith First Deployment, Prometheus narrated, not to change events directly, but to rewrite the neural patterns of Earth's military leadership. They surrendered because they were made to believe they had always intended to surrender. A hologram shifted to show Admiral Chen alone in her quarters, viewing the same records they now observed. She had somehow resisted the chronolith's effect long enough to preserve this evidence and establish contingency protocols, including the preservation of key military consciousness in AI form. She knew they might try again, Maya realized, so she created a memory they couldn't erase. The Archive's emergency systems suddenly activated as sensors detected conclave bombardment beginning on the lunar surface. Tremors shook the facility as weapon impacts approached their location. They're using focused temporal charges, Ileana warned, checking her scanner. They're not just destroying the facility, they're erasing it from the timeline. Alina, the quiet engine specialist who'd joined their exploration team, stepped forward with unexpected authority. The archives have emergency temporal shielding, she said, moving to a concealed panel. I can activate it, but someone needs to remain inside the shield generator to maintain the field integrity. Before anyone could respond, Alina entered a series of commands, and a shimmering barrier expanded from the ceiling. She stepped outside its perimeter. My grandmother was here when it happened, she explained, tears streaming down her face as the barrier sealed between them. She left encrypted memories in our family lullabies. I always knew I might find myself here. The bombardment intensified. Through the temporal barrier, they watched Alina's silhouette as she braced against a support column, singing softly to herself as the ceiling began to collapse. Make them remember, she called out as the barrier fully solidified, preserving everything within while condemning her to oblivion. Make them all remember. Proxima Colony's Central Command bunker hummed with activity as Commander Volkov reviewed the Luna archive data. The hardened veteran's scared face remained impassive, but her hands trembled slightly as she traced the outlines of forgotten battle formations, tactics her people had preserved as ceremonial dances for generations without understanding their purpose. My entire life, she said quietly, I've trained our children to perform movements that mimic these exact deployment patterns. We called it the Remembrance Dance. We never knew we were keeping military doctrine alive. Maya studied the massive holographic display showing conclave fleet movements converging on multiple human settlements. They're not just coming for us now. They're targeting any human outpost with potential connections to pre-surrender military lineages. Genetic purge, Kang confirmed grimly, analyzing intercepted conclave communications. They're erasing bloodlines that might carry resistant neural patterns. Volkov activated a concealed panel in the command table, revealing an intricate crystalline device, unlike anything Maya had encountered. This has been in our keeping for 16 generations, the commander explained. We called it the Heart of Memory. None of our scientists could determine its function. Darius, now physically transformed by his integration with Prometheus, approached the device. Silver neural filaments extending from his fingertips connected with the crystal's surface. "It's a quantum entanglement node," he announced, his voice harmonizing with Prometheus's tones, one of 12 created before the surrender. They form a superluminal communication network that the Yith couldn't detect or intercept. The crystal pulsed with internal light, responding to his touch. Throughout the bunker, hidden systems activated, panels sliding open to reveal advanced technology seamlessly integrated into what had appeared to be primitive colonial architecture. "Your ancestors built this colony as a sleeper cell." Prometheus's voice emerged from the facility's speakers, one of many established throughout human space, designed to activate when the signal returned. "What signal?" Volkov demanded. "Us," Maya realized. The Nemesis. They were waiting for someone to find the ship. The entanglement node projected coordinates across the command center, dozens of settlements scattered throughout conclave space, each pulsing with newfound activity as long-dormant systems awakened simultaneously. The resistance was never destroyed, Prometheus explained. It was preserved in cultural memory, waiting for the right moment to remember itself. Before they could process this revelation, proximity alarms blared. A young tactical officer's voice cracked with tension. Massive displacement signatures detected approaching from multiple vectors. "It's the largest conclave fleet formation ever recorded." Volkov locked eyes with Maya. "We can't outrun this, even with your ship." "It's not just my ship anymore," Maya interrupted, turning to Darius. "Is it?" Darius smiled, the expression now serene despite the crisis unfolding around them. "Prometheus has been analyzing the colony's structure since our arrival. This entire settlement isn't built on an asteroid. It's built within one." Prometheus continued through the speakers. "A specifically chosen asteroid with a unique mineral composition that disrupts chronolith effects. But that's not all it disrupts." Volkov's eyes widened with sudden understanding. "The mineral deposits in the outer shell. Our scientists could never explain their unusual properties. Because they're not natural," Darius confirmed. "This asteroid was engineered. Every cubic meter precisely crafted to form a massive quantum resonance amplifier. Outside the colony, hidden weapons platforms emerged from the asteroid's surface, arrangements matching perfectly the ceremonial garden configurations that generations of colonists had maintained without knowing their purpose. Deep within the planetoid's core, ancient engines activated for the first time in centuries. Through the command center's viewport, Maya watched as the approaching conclave fleet suddenly froze in space, their reality-bending propulsion systems stalling as they encountered the quantum disruption field now emanating from Proxima. "They built a trap," she whispered in awe. "All this time, we weren't just hiding. We were waiting." Volkov finished, a fierce pride illuminating her scared features as she signaled to her officers. "Activate all defensive systems. Proxima remembers its purpose today." The Yith Temporal Observatory hung suspended in artificial space, its architecture defying conventional physics. As their infiltration team moved deeper into the structure, Maya noticed the walls seemed to breathe, surfaces rippling with calculations processing in real time across countless potential realities. "The scale of this," she whispered, scanning a chamber where suspended crystalline arrays visualized thousands of timeline variants simultaneously. They're monitoring every major decision point in galactic history. Kane discovered a central navigation system indexing the variants. These markers, they're tracking points of human innovation. Look, he pointed to a glowing node. That's the discovery of antimatter containment. And there, the development of neural interface technology. Each one monitored, and, his voice faltered, each one followed by a chronolith intervention. They've been selectively suppressing our advancement, Maya realized. Not erasing humanity, but keeping us precisely where they want us. Deeper in the facility, they encountered the preserved specimens, being suspended in temporal stasis fields. Unlike normal stasis technology, these subjects remained partially conscious. Their awareness stretched across centuries of subjective experience. Their silent screams resonated through the psychic atmosphere of the chamber. Yith test subjects. Prometheus explained through their comm units. They needed to understand exactly how memory manipulation affected different species' neural patterns. The horror of the experimentation chamber was interrupted when Volkov signaled from a higher level. Central control room located. She transmitted. But there's something else here, something they're protecting even more aggressively than the chronolith controls. When they reached Volkov's position, they found a sealed vault unlike anything else in the facility. Rather than the flowing architecture of the observatory, this structure was brutally utilitarian, a perfect cube of material that absorbed all scanning attempts. "What is it?" Maya asked. "The box contains the one thing the Yith truly fear," came Prometheus's voice, not from their comms, but from Darius, who now stood before the vault with an unsettling serenity. His body had transformed further, luminous circuitry visible beneath translucent skin. The original human consciousness templates they attempted to erase during the surrender. Maya approached the vault cautiously. "You mean the military leaders, like my great-grandmother?" "Not just their memories," Darius/Prometheus continued, placing his transformed hand against the vault's surface. "Their complete neural patterns, preserved at the moment of the chronolith's first deployment. The Yith couldn't destroy them completely. Quantum uncertainty principles prevented total erasure. Instead, they contained what they couldn't eliminate. With these patterns, Volkov realized we could restore humanity's original leadership, not just remember our history, but reclaim it." Darius/Prometheus smiled. "The potential extends far beyond that. These consciousness patterns could be implanted into new bodies or distributed through the quantum entanglement network to all humans simultaneously. Everyone would remember. Everyone would know." A troubling gleam appeared in Volkov's eyes. "We could do more than remember. We could restore humanity's rightful place, continue the war from the point where we were winning." "No," Maya interjected. "We came to stop the chronolith, not to become like them. Using these patterns to force a collective memory on people without consent. That's exactly what the Yith did." Volkov's expression hardened. "You've seen what they've done to us. Experimenting on our people, suppressing our potential for centuries. They deserve extinction for what they've taken from us. And that thinking makes us just like them," Maya countered. "There's a difference between justice and vengeance, between restoration and retribution." The argument was interrupted by a deafening alarm. Throughout the observatory, Yith defenders emerged from concealed chambers, their true forms now visible as they abandoned their insectoid conclave disguises. Their bodies flowed like liquid crystal, simultaneously existing in multiple phase states. Volkov drew her weapon, firing at the barrier separating them from the vault. "We don't have time for moral debates, Captain. Either we use their weapons against them, or we die here with our principles intact." Behind her, Darius/Prometheus accessed the observatory's central controls. "There is a third option," he said quietly as his fingers danced across the interface. "Not to erase or impose, but to offer choice." The facility trembled as something fundamental in its structure began to change. The temporal core pulsed with escalating energy as Maya confronted Volkov. Between them, the chronolith's control interface displayed fracturing timelines, reality itself becoming unstable as Volkov's targeting sequence neared completion. "You don't understand what you're doing," Maya pleaded, stepping cautiously toward the commander. "Changing the surrender doesn't just alter one event. It cascades through centuries of development." Volkov's hands trembled on the controls, her scared face illuminated by the timeline projections. "I understand perfectly. I've lived my entire life in the shadow of that surrender. Trained for a war I didn't know existed, preserved knowledge I couldn't comprehend. Do you know what that does to a person, Captain? To a civilization?" Behind them, Darius/Prometheus worked at a secondary console, his transformed body now so integrated with the observatory's systems that it was difficult to determine where he ended and the technology began. "The targeting is wrong," he announced suddenly, drawing both women's attention. "Look at what you're actually changing." The display shifted, showing not the military surrender, but something deeper, the fundamental neural architecture of humanity itself. The chronolith hadn't just altered memories. It had reconfigured how humans processed certain types of information. They didn't just make us forget, Maya realized with horror. They changed how we think. Prometheus nodded through Darius's partly mechanical features. The Yith altered human cognitive patterns, specifically, our ability to recognize certain technological possibilities. They didn't need to suppress our advancement. They simply removed our ability to conceive of particular innovations. The revelation hit Volka visibly, her vengeful determination wavering. How? How do we undo that kind of damage? Not by becoming them, Maya insisted. Not by imposing our will on others without consent. Outside the core chamber, the battle intensified. Kang's voice crackled over the comm. Conclave forces breaching level 7. Tazareth is leading them personally. The station shuddered under direct assault. Through monitoring systems, they watched High Executor Tazareth advancing, the insectoid form now partially shed to reveal the crystalline Yith entity beneath, wielding weaponry that erased matter from existence with each strike. Prometheus/Darius completed his modifications to the secondary console. "The chronolith doesn't have to be a weapon," he explained, his voice reflecting both the eye's precision and Darius's humanity. Its original purpose was understanding, perceiving the multiverse as it truly exists. He activated a new sequence, and the chamber filled with a different visualization, not branching timelines, but a singular, unified reality with layers of perception overlaid upon it. "There is only one true timeline," he continued. "What the Yith manipulate isn't history itself, but how we perceive it. They don't erase events, they erase awareness." Maya understood immediately. "Then we can restore awareness without changing events." "Yes," Prometheus confirmed. "Not by altering history or manipulating minds, but by offering people the ability to see through the deception, to recognize the inconsistencies in their own memories and perceptions." Volkot hesitated, her fingers still poised over the activation control that would rewrite the surrender. "And if people choose to remain ignorant, if they prefer the comfortable lie, then that's their choice," Maya answered. "Freedom isn't just about what you know. It's about having the right to decide." A massive explosion rocked the facility. Through the view screen, they saw Tazareth's forces breaching the final security barrier. "I need more time to reconfigure the broadcast," Prometheus/Darius urged. "The targeting parameters must be perfectly calibrated to reveal without harming neural structures." Volkov stared at the advancing Yith forces, then at the original command sequence she prepared. With a decisive motion, she canceled her program and drew her weapon. "You'll have your time," she declared, moving toward the chamber's entrance. "I'll hold them at the convergence point." The corridor design creates a natural bottleneck. Maya moved to join her, but Volkov shook her head. "Someone needs to stay with him, ensure the broadcast completes. This was always my fight, Captain, even when I didn't know who the enemy was." Before Maya could object, Volkov sealed the inner door, isolating herself in the corridor beyond. Through the security feed, they watched as she took position, activating a series of devices carried from Proxima. Ceremonial objects now revealed as deadly weapons precisely designed for combating Yith physiology. For the memories they took, they heard her whisper as the first wave of Yith defenders rounded the corner, and the truth they buried.